Meow. So many moons ago, Brad of Full Spectrum Survival, I think in February of 2020, said that people should buy a peripheral oximeter for use for the pandemic. And Kitty had the following to say on it at the time, and at the time I agreed with it. We did not think this was an essential piece of kit for home use in a pandemic. Let's listen to Kitty, and then I'll say why we were wrong.
Meow.
Meow.
Wow.
Hello.
Hello.
This is Kitty at work.
This is Kitty at work.
Kitty's going to explain oxygen saturometry, peripheral blood.
Hello. Not sure why you would need oxygen saturation monitoring outside of a clinical setting. You can usually rely on whether you're feeling short of breath or not as reason to be concerned. If you do have one, if you don't have any underlying respiratory disease, if you have COPD or something like that, your numbers might be, you might be able to tolerate lower numbers because your body would be used to it, say a saturation of 88 to 92, if you had some sort of underlying respiratory condition. But normally you would be 90 and over on room air. It measures the oxygen on hemoglobin. It's certainly probably valid to look at trends. If you were 94 and now you're 84 and you're feeling dyspneic, you probably should go to the hospital.
Dyspneic means short of breath.
Short of breath, yeah. If your respiratory rate is up and you're struggling to breathe, you should always go and get seen.
How accurate is it?
Well, there's things that can make it inaccurate. You know, if you're peripherally shut down, if you're cold, if for some reason it measures through blood flow through your digits. So if there's something that's compromising that, it might not be inaccurate. If you're tremoring, it might not be accurate. But looking at its trend is usually fairly accurate, and we do certainly rely on it. So I don't know if I can give you a percentage of accuracy.
So you don't think it's any use for home use, unless you've got a respiratory illness?
I mean, I think if you're feeling, if your saturations are low,
you're not feeling well anyway.
You're going to feel dyspneic. You're going to feel short of breath anyway.
Yeah.
It might verify that, but I don't know why you would need to do that at home. If you feel short of breath, you can't catch your breath, you're working really hard to breathe, you should go.
But if you have COPD, it's something you could track yourself and maybe give yourself an early warning that you've got an infection rising? Like for people with chronic lung disease?
You could. I mean, I suppose you could. Like I say, I think if you just pay attention to how your body's feeling and how you're feeling,
right,
you'll know.
Right.
You don't necessarily need that to back you up.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
Our main reasoning was that if you had COVID-19 disease or any respiratory disease, you would actually suffer signs and symptoms of being short of breath, dyspnea. Why are you looking at saturation? If for some reason the saturation is high, does that mean you shouldn't go to hospital? No, you should go to hospital if you are having trouble breathing. If you're having difficulty breathing, you should seek medical advice no matter what this little dodgy thing says. And I think that was a great idea. Now obviously for people who've got COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, like Will from Just in Time Prepping, and I think Christine, there's a few people out there online with it. A little tool like this is a really good idea. You do it once a day or twice a day, and if it starts to drop below your baseline, what your normal result is, then you might seek hospital help or start antibiotics prior to getting sick, prior to having a severe exacerbation, a severe worsening of your difficulty breathing, because difficulty breathing is normal for you. So that's why we said no. And why did I change my mind? Why did I buy one? Well, it's cheap, pretty reliable, and it has an important role in this pandemic that Brad didn't know, and I didn't know, which is that a lot of people have low oxygen saturation before they have any symptoms. So in other words, if you are catching COVID-19 disease before you have a cough or diarrhea or shortness of breath or a massive headache or lack of smell or lack of taste, any of the multiple symptoms you can get with this, a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people would show significantly low reductions in peripheral oxygen saturation compared to their baseline. Yeah, that's really good to know, especially for nurses like me and Kitty, If we haven't picked this up and we're asymptomatic, this little box might say, hey guys, you may want to go and get swabbed. And the faster you know that you've got a disease, the faster you can be treated, although there is no actual treatment whatsoever for COVID-19 disease. Sorry, there isn't. You can get supported treatment and do things differently, like increasing the rest, increasing the hydration, sleeping prone, i.e. sleeping with your belly on the mattress. There's a lot of things you can do, doing deep breathing exercises, a lot of time-consuming, difficult things you could do asymptomatically if you have COVID-19 disease but don't have symptoms. And if you have symptoms, you need to do them as well. So I got this one. I don't recommend it. They didn't give me any money for it. It's from China. There was a considerable delay getting it. I don't know what the delay would be now, but I still maintain that we were very wrong, and you should have one of these or access to one of these. You clean them with alcohol, 75% alcohol, and then damp it dry after it's evaporated for a bit. Don't use soap and water, don't put it in water, don't have very sweaty hands. But what does it do? There's a lot of videos telling you what it does. Let me give you my first year students view, what I tell my first year students. It measures the amount of oxygen molecules stuck on your blood cells. It measures the amount of oxygen attached to hemoglobin. That's it. That's what it's measuring. If it's high, but the oxygen can't leave the hemoglobin for whatever reason, you're going to be very short of breath. If it's low, but the oxygen can easily go through the blood serum, leave the hemoglobin and go through the watery, bloody thing, the liquid, and then get in the cells, your saturation could be low, but you might not have any shortness of breath. So that's why I think this is occurring in COVID-19 disease, though nobody actually knows. So when you turn these on, the batteries are AAA, very easy to replace. When you turn it on, it makes a little beeping noise, it goes through a self-check and turns off. So when you put it on your finger, any digit will do. Kitty has real trouble having oxygen saturation to monitor it. If you don't have an oxygen saturation, or it's not picking up, or it's very, very low, don't assume that it's accurate. It could be because you're peripherally shut down. The slower the blood flow, the less blood flow through the digits, the worse this will be. You can use these on your toes, so it's not recommended. You shouldn't leave them in place because it will cause local pressure. And you should do this at roughly the same time and activity level each day and record it so you see where it's going. So let's place it the right way up. So what are you looking at? They're all different and it's pretty straightforward. This one actually tells you. You can see on the left side my heart rate beating. My resting heart rate whilst I'm videoing is 73 or so, and my oxygen saturation is 99. 100% isn't too high, okay? And 96% isn't too low. So anything between 95 to 99 to 100% is okay. You want to see what the heart rate's doing as well. Usually, typically, when you're short of breath, the heart rate accelerates. You get tachycardia. It'll go to 90, 100, 140, or even higher, and you will feel that. You will have symptoms of that. Again, COVID-19 disease is implying that you do not always actually get a rebound tachycardia and increasing heart rate with low O2 sat. Again, good idea to write both of these numbers down. And you'll actually feel your pulse pulsing in your digit, and there you go. So I know what my saturation is. This implies that I do not have asymptomatic COVID-19 disease. It does not mean that I don't have COVID-19 disease, okay? But it's a good indicator that I probably don't have asymptomatic COVID-19 disease. You get a little booklet. I'm not going to read it because that would bore the heck out of you. It's really tiny little print. It's good. It's a good booklet. Quite enjoyed this booklet. It's not stupid. It's, for me, I was able to read it. Probably a bit technical for the layperson, but it's good. Now you can use these between various members of the family, but again, like I say, wipe them with 75% alcohol in between use and let it dry completely before you use it. Your oxygen saturation will vary with altitude, and it will alter with baseline physical condition, and it will alter with exercise. So you want to be doing this resting, and you want to be doing it at roughly the same point in time every day. It's an absolutely great thing to have faced with a pandemic that has low O2 saturation as one of many symptoms without you feeling the shortness of breath. So thanks, Brad. I don't know how you figured it out, but you were right and we were wrong. In a pandemic with a novel, a new virus, a lot of healthcare professionals will go by what they know, and what they know is what keeps people alive, but it might be wrong. And in this case, we were wrong. Now, I firmly believe in mechanical blood pressure monitors, but they're getting really hard, if not impossible to get. I do have one in extreme storage, unavailable to me, so I do have a blood pressure monitor as well. And again, these are a good thing to have if you have any sort of blood pressure issues, which I do. And it's a good idea to keep one of these. Like, for example, if you feel dizzy and you sit down and you still feel dizzy and you take your blood pressure and it's lower than your normal, remember you have to take these on a lot of occasions to know what your normal is for you. You know, you may be dehydrated or you may be having heart disease. So to finish up, I just want to talk about numbers. This is a typical monitor at work. There's a whole bunch of numbers on this. What you can see is the heart rate at the top, and you can see the waveform, and I won't get into what the waveform is and does, but the waveform is quite fascinating. It's different actions of the heart during the normal heartbeat. After the heartbeats, you then get the red, the blood pressure. What you're actually looking at is an arterial line. This is an invasive blood pressure monitor. You stick a needle into an artery, typically radial, can be ulnar, can be elsewhere, and you transduce it, and you actually see the pressure change in the artery, okay, not main, artery. And that's a specialized nursing tool that we use all the time pretty much, because you can take blood samples through without sticking needles in people. There are other risks with it though. And you can see that the heart beats, the blood pressure moves slightly after the heart beats. It's after, mechanical is after the electrical movement of the heart, because the cardiac wave, the heart wave, is actually electrical movement, and then you get movement mechanically of the heart muscle. Then you get the waveform going out from the heart to the body, and then you see, if you can look closely, you'll see the O2 saturation waveform also is slightly after the blood pressure waveform. Interesting. Anyway, that's how level you can get into it, but all of this is doing is monitoring your condition. You can monitor your condition, it's a good idea. In COVID-19, this is an essential piece of kit. Brad was right, we were wrong. Anyway, remember in SHTF, tomorrow will always be worse than today, unless you prep. And even if you prep in a pandemic, tomorrow will always be worse than the day before, until the pandemic's over. We are dropping out globally from the first wave. There may not be a second wave. Assume there will be. Keep locked down for the next 3 to 6 weeks. Make really sure you don't take unnecessary, stupid risks, like going to a restaurant. If you have to work in a restaurant, be as protected as you can in the restaurant. Do your own things, be careful, be intentional about what you touch and then what you touch with your hands, okay? Be very intentional. If you have to work, you have to work. But you don't have to go to parties. You don't have to do all the rest of the stuff people are going to do right now because it's opening again. No. We open after the pandemic is over. And the pandemic is not over until global cases are effectively 0 new infections. Okay? Toodles. This has been a slow-moving Hungry Terrier production 2020.